My stepsisters stole my fiancé by eloping with him right before the wedding. Now, they are panicking and coming back to beg me after I did this to them. Fast forward to when we were 23 and we decided we were so in love that we should get married. So, we got engaged and everything seemed perfect for a while. But then, just 2 weeks before our big wedding day, something straight out of a movie happened. My fiancé, Tom, who was 27, and my stepsister, Sarah, who's a year younger than him, suddenly decided they were in love with each other instead. They ran off together just like that, leaving me a note. In the note, Tom told me he had been secretly seeing Sarah for a while and that they realized they were the ones who were truly meant to be together, not him and me. He said it felt wrong to go through with our wedding when his heart belonged to someone else and thought it was for the best because this way, nobody would end up unhappy or living a lie. After they took off, I didn't hear from them again for a really long time. Tom's parents, feeling super sorry about everything, paid for all the wedding expenses, so I wouldn't have to spend a dime, which was nice of them, but that was pretty much the last time I had any contact with his side of the family. My family, on the other hand, was beyond upset. My parents were furious, and my stepdad was so angry. He even thought about hiring a detective to find Tom and Sarah and bring them back to explain themselves. It was a total mess and definitely not how I thought things would turn out. So since I was super young, like around 5 years old, the man I call my dad is actually my stepdad. But here's the deal. He's the only dad I've ever known or needed. My real dad left us when I was just a baby and my mom never saw him again after that. He even signed some papers saying he didn't want to be part of my life. My mom and he were never married. Then, when I was about 7 years old, my mom married my stepdad, and that's who I've been calling Dad ever since. Now, Sarah and we used to go to the same school. That's how our parents met. But Sarah, she didn't like me, not one bit. She was mean to me, really mean, like a bully in movies. She had her group of friends and they would always pick on me, both at school and at home. It was like there was no break from her meanness. I told my parents about it hoping they could make it stop. They did try to talk to her and tell her off, but Sarah didn't care. She wasn't afraid of them at all, so she just kept on bullying me. School was tough because of her and her friends, making it feel like a never-ending nightmare. Just like how I never had my real dad around, Sarah's situation was pretty tough from the start. Her own mom passed away when she was really young, like just 2 years old. It happened suddenly one night because of a health issue called a heart attack. So when my mom tried to step in and tell Sarah off for being mean or doing something wrong, Sarah would snap back, saying my mom had no right to tell her what to do since she wasn't her real mom. My dad gave it a shot too, trying to get Sarah to stop being so mean to me. They tried all sorts of things, from getting really strict with her to sitting down and trying to talk things out calmly, but Sarah didn't care. Nothing they said or did made any difference to her. They even threatened to send her away somewhere if she didn't stop, but Sarah just threw those threats right back in their faces, knowing they wouldn't really do it. As time went on, Sarah didn't get any better. By the time we were in high school, she was really out of control. She started smoking, hanging out with a really rough crowd and sneaking out to drink. And then one night she got caught. She and her friends were busted for breaking into someone's house after they had been drinking. That was the last straw for our parents. They realized Sarah needed serious help, so they decided to send her away to a place that could hopefully set her straight. After a lot of arguing and pleading, Sarah finally agreed to go to a special place for teenagers who were having a really tough time and were acting out, like a rehab center for troubled teens. She wasn't happy about it, but my dad was super serious. He told her that if she wanted to stay with us and be part of our family, she needed to get her act together. He was worried because her actions were not just hurting us, but could also be dangerous for others around her. So during our junior year of high school, Sarah left to get the help she needed. She didn't come back home until after we had finished high school. She stayed with her uncle and went to a school close to the rehab center. I didn't really keep in touch with her during this time. I mean, she was the person who made my life miserable. So why would I want to know how she was doing? My parents would go see her every weekend and always asked if I wanted to join them, but I was like, no way. While she was gone, her friends at school stopped bothering me. It was like I didn't even exist to them anymore, which was actually pretty nice because it meant no more bullying. My high school years got a lot better from that point on. When Sarah came back, she had finished her schooling and seemed to have changed. The first thing she did was apologize to me for all the mean stuff she had done. She seemed much calmer and I could tell she was trying to be a better person, so I decided to forgive her. As high school was winding down and we were getting ready for college, things between me and Sarah started to shift a bit. We were about to head off to different colleges, which meant we'd be moving out and starting new chapters of our lives. When we did come back home for holidays, I noticed Sarah was acting differently towards me. She wasn't exactly friendly, but she wasn't mean anymore either. Instead of bothering me all the time, she just sort of ignored me, which honestly I was totally okay with. Being ignored was way better than being bullied. Our parents saw the change too, but they didn't push us to be super close or act like sisters, given everything that had happened. Them seeing us not fighting was probably a relief. Then, I started dating Tom. After we had been together for a year, I decided it was time he met my family, so I brought him home for Christmas. To my surprise, everyone got along great, even Sarah. She actually joined in on the conversation, which was something new. She seemed to get along with Tom pretty well, which was a bit of a surprise. After I started dating Tom, Sarah suddenly seemed interested in being more friendly with me. She would reach out to talk, which was something she never really did before. It was like she was trying to make up for the past in her own way. I was really confused by how Sarah was acting all nice out of the blue, and I couldn't shake off this little worry that maybe she liked Tom, my boyfriend. So one day I just straight up asked her if she was trying to be friends with me because of Tom. She laughed it off and said that wasn't it at all. The real reason she started changing her attitude towards me was something Tom said during our first dinner together. He talked about how much he loved his brothers and sisters, and that got Sarah thinking. She realized she had been pretty awful to me for a long time, especially after she came back from the rehab place. Tom's words made her want to fix things between us, not because she had a crush on him, but because she saw how important family was. Sarah admitted she used to blame me for her having to go to that rehab center for troubled teens, but after a while she understood that it wasn't my fault. She was the one who messed up. She decided it was time to stop treating me badly and try to really be a part of our family. So Tom kind of helped her see things differently, even if he didn't know it. I was really confused by how Sarah started acting nicer and wanting to be friends all of a sudden, and part of me wondered if it was because she liked Tom. So I just asked her straight up if she was being friendly because of him. She laughed it off and said no. She explained that hearing Tom talk about how close he was with his siblings made her think about our own relationship. She realized she wanted to fix things between us, not because of Tom himself, but because he made her see how important family relationships are. Sarah admitted she used to blame me for her being sent to that rehab place for troubled teens, and it took her a while to understand that it was her own actions that got her there, not me. She said she wanted to make things right with me, to really be part of the family, and that meant apologizing sincerely and trying to improve our relationship. Her words really got to me and I decided to forgive her and try to be friends. That decision felt right for a long time. Sarah even got involved in planning my wedding and our relationship seemed to be getting better. We weren't super close, but things were definitely better than before. We made a point to catch up regularly, and by the time Tom and I got engaged, Sarah and I were on pretty good terms. I had no reason to suspect anything weird between her and Tom. They both acted totally normal around each other at family gatherings. And even after our engagement, nothing seemed off. It was like everything was finally falling into place. I was totally caught off guard by everything. I never once suspected that Tom could like Sarah. He was really good at pretending he was all about me, and Sarah was just as good at acting like my friend. It wasn't until they ran off together that I realized what was actually going on. After they left, my parents were super angry and wanted to go after them, but I just didn't have the energy for more drama. I was already feeling super low and embarrassed by the whole situation. They had made me look like a fool, disappearing just 2 weeks before what was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. So I asked my parents to just let it be because I needed to focus on healing, not chasing after them. I tried to keep busy with work and slept a lot, basically doing anything I could to not think about how hurt I was. But just when I thought things couldn't get any worse, I got a postcard from Sarah from New York. To make things even more painful, she included photos of her and Tom looking really happy together. It was like another blow to my already broken heart. So after everything went down, Sarah sent me a postcard from New York. It seemed like she was trying to say sorry for shocking me right before the wedding, but it was pretty clear she wasn't actually sorry. Instead, it felt like she was just trying to make me even more upset. That's when it hit me. She had never really gotten over being sent away years ago. She still blamed me for it and never actually wanted to be my friend. She was just pretending, using me to get closer to Tom. Looking back, it feels like a really twisted plan. Just a few days after getting that postcard, I was a total wreck. I couldn't sleep, and I kept going over everything in my mind. It was just too much. Going through this was super hard. I ended up needing therapy for months to work through the hurt and the trust issues that came from this betrayal. And the postcards? They didn't stop coming. Sarah kept sending them, showing off her life with Tom, but I never gave in to the drama or responded. Eventually, about 8 months later, she stopped sending them. Our parents were really upset about it and naturally cut all ties with her after that. They didn't even try to reach out to her after the first postcard, and that was a huge loss for Sarah because she was all set to inherit her dad's company. She was a marketing major, and that was part of the reason why she had chosen that route for herself, because she wanted to join her father. But of course, after what she had pulled off, our father cut all ties with her and told me I could join him instead, because he felt like he had to make up for everything in a major way. But I didn't have a marketing degree. I was actually an art major, and that pretty much had nothing to do with business. So I needed to learn the ropes first. My father said that it was not a problem because he was willing to teach me everything he knew so that I could eventually take over the company instead of Sarah. So I agreed and started to work with him so I could learn how to run the company, and he could retire and hand over the reins to me after a while. I worked really hard for a couple of years, and last year I was finally promoted, and my father retired. It was an amazing feeling because I had started from scratch and had to learn everything, but now everything was smooth sailing under me and has been for some time. Thanks to me, my parents can now spend more time together without worrying about the business because I'm taking care of it. It's been this way for quite a while and I pretty much stopped thinking about Tom after I started working for my father because that took up all my time. That, along with therapy, helped me move on. And I would say now, I've completely moved on and don't think about them or what they did. I never thought that they would ever reach out to me again, let alone ask for my help because it would take a lot of guts and utter lack of functioning brain cells to ask me to help them out after they screwed me over and made a fool out of me, and then went on to rub it in my face as well. But I guess that Sarah and Tom really do lack brains now because they did reach out to me a few days back. I was at home because it was the weekend, and around dinner time, I heard someone frantically ringing my doorbell. I thought it was the package I had ordered, so I didn't think much of it. When I opened the door, I received the biggest surprise of my life when, instead of a delivery guy, I found Sarah standing outside my house looking really worried. I didn't know what to say, so I just silently waited for her to speak. While looking at her, I realized that she was definitely here to ask for help because she was looking destitute and her appearance gave her away. Even as a kid, Sarah always used to dress well, but when I saw her, she was dressed in old clothes that were all faded and had obviously been purchased a really long time ago. Her jeans were way too short and she herself looked like she hadn't been eating. I had already made up my mind that whatever she was about to ask me, the answer was going to be no. So when she said that she needed me to help her out because she and Tom had been struggling for a really long time ever since he lost his job a few months ago, I wasn't surprised. He had started drinking instead of looking for a new job. And even though she had been trying to find a job for herself, she couldn't because she had quit everything to stay at home and do all the household work when she first moved away with Tom. And because of that, she hadn't been working in the recent past, and the gap in her resume made her a weaker contender for all the jobs she had been applying to. She said that she had heard from a couple of relatives that our father had retired and had handed over the company to me. So now she was here to ask me if I would be willing to hire Tom and give him something to do. Sarah told me that she had come all the way here only to ask me for help and said that she was sorry for whatever she did in the past, but now she was counting on me to bail her out. She told me that she hadn't even approached our parents yet and had come straight to my house to ask for help because she knew that I had a kind heart, and she felt awfully guilty about betraying me in the past. But she was sure that I wouldn't turn her away now that she needed my help. Her entitlement was so ridiculous that I ended up laughing in her face and told her to apply somewhere else because I don't hire cheaters. Then I shut the door in her face and walked back into the living room, preparing to call the cops if she didn't get off my property soon. Thankfully, she did go away that day, but she hasn't left me alone yet. After her visit, the first thing I did was call our parents and tell them about it. They told me that they had heard from a couple of their neighbors that Sarah was back in town without Tom, but they hadn't believed it. And we live in a relatively small town, so everybody knows everybody. We were quickly able to find out that Sarah had been here for about 2 weeks before she finally paid me a visit and had been living with one of her old friends from high school. It was probably her high school friend who had told her where I was living, and also about the fact that I had inherited the company that was rightfully supposed to be hers, and now she was really milking that. A couple of days after she visited me, she decided to go meet our parents to tell them how heartless I was being. She had expected them to be on her side now that she had the upper hand on who was suffering more. But she couldn't have been more mistaken because my father told her that the company was now mine to run and I could make whatever decisions I deemed fit. He didn't have any say in it anymore because he wasn't going to micromanage me. And my mother reminded her that she was the one who had screwed me over by running away with my fiancé after pretending to be my friend for years, and now she completely deserved whatever was coming to her. She had lost the right to ask any of us for help, especially me, after she had been sending me postcards to torment me. She tried to defend herself by saying that it was all in the past and she's a different person now. But my parents told her that she had to leave because they wanted nothing to do with her anymore. That led to her throwing a tantrum at their house and claiming that they had always favored me over her and treated me like the golden child. She told my father that in spite of being his own flesh and blood, he had never treated her like that, and acted as if I was his only daughter and she was worth nothing to him. When he told her that he had made more allowances for her behavior in the past than any other parent in the world would, she said that it still didn't matter. I had everything that she was supposed to have, including the company that I was showing off about. She said that it wasn't even her fault that Tom had fallen for her and wanted to spend his life with her instead of me. But for some reason, she was the one being punished for it. She claimed that the postcards she had sent were meant to be a genuine apology, and she wasn't even trying to torment me. And honestly, I haven't been able to stop thinking about that since my father told me what she said. In a way, it's true that she was supposed to inherit this company and be in my place, but she really lost it because of her own actions. I had no part to play in that. I never told my father to cut her out of his life and hand over the company to me. He did it of his own volition, and it feels kind of unfair for her to blame me for this. Also, the thing that she said about me being the golden child is absolutely not true, but I can see why she would feel that way because in her head, she was the one who was sent away because I complained about her and her incessant bullying. A parent deciding to send their kid away is a really big deal, and I know it was rough on my father. But again, that's not his fault or my fault. If he hadn't taken the necessary steps to prevent it, Sarah might have turned out to be a criminal or something, because that's the way she was going. Apart from that, I don't really think she was trying to apologize with the postcards and was probably just trying to cover it up by saying that it was supposed to be a genuine apology. I just feel bad for her because her husband turned out to be completely useless, and now she has to bail him out. So she actually came to me. And I can't imagine how difficult that must have been for her, so I kind of regret treating her the way I did. I have everything now, and she has nothing, so I can't help but feel sorry for her. That's just who I am as a person. Besides, it has been a long time, and I don't feel like holding on to that grudge anymore. But I also don't want to help her out in any way. The most I can do is give them my sympathy, but I really don't want to hire them or help them out with money. I think it's enough that I even feel bad for her after everything that she put me through. Most people probably wouldn't bat an eye. The only reason I even feel bad for her right now is because this company was actually supposed to be hers. And now that I'm in a position of power, I'm finally getting back at her. And I just feel like it's not right. It might be because of what she said about me being the golden child or maybe just plain old imposter syndrome, but I feel weird about this. So, am I the jerk for refusing to hire my ex-fiancé who eloped with my stepsister now that they're struggling with money and help them out? Update 1. I haven't had any idea what to do, and the comments here just confuse me even more because some of you said that I was doing the right thing by turning them away. And the other half said I had always been the golden child, and that's why Sarah started to act out. So this wasn't as helpful as I had thought it was going to be. I decided to talk to my parents because every single time that I've had to face problems in my life, I have always approached my parents for advice, and I did the same this time as well. They told me that I had no reason to feel sorry for Sarah because everybody had gone above and beyond to try and make her a better person. But if she wasn't willing to turn over a new leaf at any point in her life, then there was not much that we could do for her. My father told me that he had every intention of letting her take over the company had she behaved herself and been a good daughter, but she failed at everything and made a total mockery out of our family. After that, she would be a fool to expect him to let her take over or even be a part of the family anymore. That made me feel considerably better because talking to my parents always does, so I try not to let myself feel guilty about things that I don't do anymore. Update 2. About 2 weeks have passed since Sarah showed up at my door, and since her visit to my parents, we haven't heard from her. I almost forgot that she had gone back to Tom until today when she showed up at my workplace to make a scene. It was horrible because she just waltzed into the place. She had known the ins and outs ever since she was a child and got in without alerting security quite easily. Then she went on to take her place in front of my office and started to shout about how I had stolen this company from right under her nose by pretending to be a good little girl for our parents and constantly being a bootlicker so they would approve of me. Apparently, I was responsible for vilifying her by falsely accusing her of bullying me throughout our childhood, and even talking my father into sending her to rehab, just so I could cement my position as the golden child of the family. She went on to announce that this company was supposed to be hers, but now I was refusing to even let her be a part of it because I was jealous that Tom had chosen her over me, unlike our parents who had always favored me. And since I wasn't used to being overlooked, I lost my mind and turned our parents against her. When I heard the yelling, I decided to go out and check it out for myself after calling security. I tried to tell her to shut up, but she went on for a good few minutes until she was finally thrown out of the building. I decided to call my dad before calling the cops to get his opinion, and he was furious. So he told me to go right ahead and call the police. Thankfully, when the cops showed up, she was still lurking nearby, probably waiting for me to leave the building so she could yell at me, or maybe do something worse like physically attack me. The cops took her away and charged her with trespassing and disturbing the peace, but they're minor charges and she can probably get off with either just a fine or maybe community service worst-case scenario. But it's certainly going on her record and that's never good. I told my dad that she had been charged and arrested and expected him to be a little upset about it, but he only seemed exasperated and told me that he was just tired of this and wanted a break from having to deal with her insanity. I honestly feel bad for him because it can't be easy having a daughter like Sarah and being blamed for everything that goes wrong in her life,